Welcome back to Code Jogging. We are still working on the use of Compose UI to create our mobile app. From a previous video, we learned how to use the test components in Compose UI, and we were able to run our app to see the output, and that's what we are seeing here. Okay, we were able to add these properties to our test components UI. Today, we are going to look at how to use the typography in our project in order to style our test component here. So for us to start using the typography, we are going to cut these properties here. We don't need it, and then we have to remove this one. So let's run our code and see that the previous styling we did is no more there. Okay, so now we don't have any styling, but know that we've cut the style that we did. So what we are going to do is we are going to use the style property, and then we call the typography. So we have to import it. Then we call the body large. Okay. So let's run it again. Okay, we are still having the previous output. Okay, so now this is what we are going to do. With the help of the typography, we can define our styles in one folder or one file, and then apply to each of the test component that you want to use, and it makes our code simple. Okay, so let's write our code. These are the predefined typographies in Compose UI. What we can do is we can override some of the typographies to suit how we want our app UI looks like. Okay, so for now, let's assume that we don't, anytime you call this body large typography, we don't want to see output like this. We want to change it to our custom output. Okay, so for us to do that, we have to go to the app. Okay, then we'll go to the UI folder, then open the theme, then we come to the type here. Okay, so set of material typo styles to start with. Okay, so these are the pre-defined or already created typographies that we can change. Okay, so for us to make sure that we are in the right file, let's change the font size to 30. Okay, and then run it and see whether the text here will become bigger. Yes, so now it means that we can customize this typography to suit our needs. So now we are going to paste the code we cut from the test components. So now let's paste them here, and then run the app again. Okay, so we left it one properties that we didn't add to it, that's test align center. Okay, so now let's run it again. Okay, so with this one, let's go back to our main source code and then explain some certain things here. Now, with the use of the typography, we were able to customize our text field and then use it in our project. Okay, so let's look at this scenario. Let's assume we have a lot of text fields that you want to use we have a lot of text fields that we want to add the same styles to it. In our previous video, we created one text field, okay, and we want to create more text field like that. Mistakenly, maybe we were supposed to make the color red or make the color green, and then we made it red. We want to change it, but we wish with one code changed it can affect all the text components in our app. We can't do that because we have to make changes to each of the text components we have in our app one by one. But with the help of the typography, we can change the font style, the font size, the font family, the text alignment, a lot of properties, all the text properties that we have in our typography. So let's assume we are going to use multiple text components in our app. Okay, and then let's make this one, let's say welcome to YouTube channel, and then welcome to Jetpack Compose UI. So let's run this code. Okay, so now we've created 3 text components here. Now we want to change the color to black, so we just change the color to black. Okay, so anytime you make changes to our typography here, it will also reflect in our app or affect all the text component that inherits this style, that's the body large. Okay, so in case we go to our app and then we change this one from body large to body medium, the last one, it means that it will use the default body medium typography. It's no more going to use our custom typography here. Yes, now you can see that the first 2 inherited our body large typography, but the last one did not, because we've changed the typography to body medium. So let's revert it back to our code. Okay, so let's run it again so that we will get our code back. Okay, now another question is, now we've used the typography to define our font style, font size, and everything. Can we still use the previous properties that we used in our text component? Yes, we can still override some of the properties. So let's assume that fine, we've created the typography here. We want this one to be the basic styling properties that all the text fields should inherit, but we want to underline the first one and then strike through the second one and then change the third one color to green. We can do that without changing it here, because anytime you make changes here, it will affect all the text field that has a style property called body large. So let's go to our code and then type test decoration, then we type test decoration strike through, and then here test decoration, then we have test decoration underline. Okay, so here let's change the color to green. Okay, so let's run the code and see. Yes, now you can see that the changes that we applied here is working. Though we have a color here, default color is red. That one means that if we did not provide any color here, then it should use the color that we have in our typography here. Okay, so though we are having our custom typography here, that one does not mean that we can't change some of the properties here. We can still change it, and the reason why we do this typography is to define our basic properties. Okay, so though we've made this text bigger, we can also reduce the size here because we didn't provide any text size here, so it's using the text size from this typography. Okay, so we can make this one have its own text size. Let's say text size, let's make it 40.sp. It means that now we've provided the text size here. We are no more interested in using the text size in this typography. Use the one we've provided here. Okay, yes, so now we've been able to change the font size to 40. Okay. Now the next step is to look at the use of fonts. In our previous video we used font family in our project, and the font family that we used was the monospace. That's this monospace, this one. What if you want to use our custom font? You want to download a font from Google. Okay, so what we can do is, now let's go to Google. Okay, now let's go to Google and then download any font that you want to use in our app. Okay, so let's wait for it to load. Okay, we can, okay, Google gave us only one option to use it, to download it, and I believe this one is not part of the tutorial. You can explore it yourself. So let's click on download here, then we download it. Okay, so now we open it and then we copy the custom font that we want to use. Now let's go back to our project. Before we can use a custom font, all fonts downloaded must be imported into font folder in the resources folder. Okay, so but here we can't find the resources folder. It means that we have to create our resources folder. So we go to the RES, or the resources folder, we go to new, then we go to resources directory here. Now we come to the resources type, then we search for font, then we click on OK. Now we have our resources folder here. Then we can paste our copied font or the custom font that we want to use. That's the Lobster Regular. Here there are some constraints that you need to know. Using the font here, you have to change the title or the name of your font to lowercase, and if you are having a white space or hyphen or whatever, you should change it to underscore. So let's change this side to lower, and then this side underscore, and this, then let's save it. Okay, So now we have imported our custom font. Now how are we going to use it? We have so many ways of using it. First, I want us to do it from our main project. Okay, so when we come here, let's change the first test component here. That's the welcome to code jogging font to the custom font. So we can come here and then we type font. I'm coming. Let me see. So we type font. Let me go to the properties and then copy. If the intelligence is not popping up, equals, then font family, then we type font. Okay, then we import it. Okay, then we import it, then we call from our font directory, that's this font dot, they're supposed to pop up all the list of fonts that we have in the folder. Okay, so now we've changed the font to our custom font, that's the lobster regular. So let's run our app. Okay, let's wait for it to come. Okay, now we've been able to change our first test to our custom font. We can do the same thing. Okay, we can do the same thing. We can have this font family move to our typography, so that we want our app to inherit this font family as a default font in our project. There we go. So now we've used a custom font in our app. Okay, now let's look at the last part. We don't need this font. Okay, we don't need this. We still need our typography. Okay, so let me run the code again. Okay, now what we are going to look at is the use of annotated string. Okay, why do we have to use that? Let me show you an example. Anytime you are calling the test class, let me delete it again so that the intelligence can help us. Now we can see that we have test, that's string, and then we have test, that's the annotated string. So we select that one. Okay, so that one, how are we going to use it? Though we can still bring the double quote, it will work, but that one does not mean that you are using the annotated string. Okay, so we have to call the build annotated string. Okay, so now we are done, and I believe you are familiar with string builder, if you're not familiar with that, you can Google it and then read more about it. With the string builder, we can have series of characters or strings, and then we can custom the style of each of the string or each of the characters. So for us to start adding the string to there, we can have the append, then we type, let's say, welcome, okay, and then you can have to, then you can have code jargon space, let's bring space at the end of this, and then you can have J, then we can have, okay, so now we have welcome to code jargon. Okay, so now we are looking at the use of the annotated string. Okay, so now let's run our code and see the output. Yes, so welcome to code jargon. Now, okay, I brought C, okay, space here. Let's remove the space and run it again. Okay, so here, why are we doing this? Let's look at this scenario. We want to make each letter or the first letter in each word font size to maybe 50. Okay, or maybe you want to change the code jargon color to maybe green and then red. Okay, so that's when, if you want to apply a different style to each of the character or word in a string or in the text field or in the text component, sorry. Okay, so for us to do that, we are going to apply color red to the C. So style, then we can add style equals span style. Okay, so we move the two characters here. Okay, now we have this. Okay, now with this style, it gives us the chance to use the properties. So we want to change the color to red, okay, and then change the font size to, let's say, 30.sp. Okay, so let's run it. Okay, so with this build annotated string, we're able to change, though we are having the same text string here, but we're able to style a specific character or characters in our text string. Instead of creating multiple tests and then changing the styles one by one, we can write one text and then customize the characters inside the text. Okay, so now we can do a lot of things. Let's assume we want to change, so like, okay, let's move this one and then delete this one. Okay, so now let's assume we want to, so span style, let's say we want to change this one, so let me copy and paste. Okay, so we want to change the color to green. Okay, then we want to change the color here to green too, but we want this one font size to be, let's say, 40 sp. Then we want this one font size to be 30 sp. Okay, and then let's say we want to underline the jogging. Okay, so let's run our app and then see the output. Okay, now we've been able to change the color of our text. That's the changing the color of code and then changing the color of jogging, but we've underlined only the OGGING, and then we've changed the J, that's the first letter of the jogging, font size to 40, which is bigger. Okay, so this is how you can use style in text components, and I believe you've learned a lot. In case you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment section, or you can send us a mail and we respond to it as soon as we receive it. Thank you for watching this video. See you in our next video. Bye bye.